Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Wednesday, and all of our guests today, including Ken Hitchcock, standing by, brought to you by the Alberni Power and Marine RPM Group, located in Port Alberni. Alberni Power and Marine is one of Vancouver Island's most trusted boat dealerships, largest Mercury Marine dealership in Canada. Make your appointment today for the 2022 boating season at albernipowermarine.com. I don't know where to begin with this man's resume, but the third winningest head coach in NHL history, close to 1,600 NHL games. Coach won a Stanley Cup with Dallas in 99, Western Hockey League titles with Kamloops, assistant coach with Team Canada's Olympic squad, gold medals in 02, 2010, 2014. The list goes on. We're joined by Ken Hitchcock. Ken, thanks for doing this. How are you, sir?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. February, so you go back 20 years. It's 02, and then you've got 2010 at the Olympics, 2014. What goes through your mind when you think of those events and the part that you played as an assistant coach?
At the start, the 02, how tough it was because of all the players that came with injuries into the competition and how we had to balance. We basically pulled 7 players off the ice, and they just showed up for the games, and then take it to 2014 in Sochi, and I think all of us knew it was over after 2 games. We felt like the buy-in was so strong from 2010 and the players that were returning that they were almost coaching the team themselves. And I don't want to say it seemed easy, but the sales part of playing the game we wanted to play was there the very first game, and we never let our foot off the gas at all.
Yeah, I don't think that 2014 team gets enough credit. But, Ken, what was the anxiety level like back in 2010 in the coaches' suite in overtime?
You know what? To be honest with you, not bad, because the players took the room over before we got into the room. I know Mike was going to go into the room and say something to the players, and Niedermeyer and Pronger had taken it over already, and their voices were loud and very determined. And Mike just turned around and joined us back in the coaching room. So he really never got a chance to say much, because the players had already said what he was going to say. So, that's what happened in that tournament, was that the veteran players really took the team over. Aginla, Pronger, Niedermeyer, Sid, they really took the team over halfway through and moved us to another level. And I don't think there was anybody that had any doubt that we were going to score and win the game, but the players had really almost started the coaching the team themselves, to be honest with you.
Ken, how well do you know Bruce Boudreau, and what do you think the Canucks have in him?
You know what? I got to know Bruce. I didn't know him that well when we coached against each other, but I got to know Bruce quite well when we started to do the coaching symposiums for the Coaches Association. And we talked during some of the Zoom calls, and having coached against him, the best way I could describe Bruce's teams is that you get nothing for free. He makes you come through them. You see it now. Their team is so good in the neutral zone. They're able to play and win 1-goal games now, and they can play extended minutes with the game tied and not crack. And they're just so strong in the neutral zone that, they're going to be a tough out every night for teams, and you don't know what the level of firepower is, or, they dug a pretty big hole, but they're not going to be a lot of fun to play against, because it's not going to be easy getting through that neutral zone.
Ken, lots of heat on Pettersson these days in Vancouver. He got the new big fat contract, and production hasn't been there like everybody wants. What's the biggest difference you've seen in young players today than young players maybe 20 years ago?
I think the pressure on skilled young players now is unbelievable, and it's almost at times unfair because you're asking them to play a mature game, and they barely just got their feet wet in the league, and you have to be really careful how you deal with the younger skilled players because you're asking a lot of them. Because they play top minutes, they play top 6 minutes, yet you're asking them to be a 200-foot player, and it takes a lot of maturity to become a 200-foot player. It doesn't happen overnight. And the pressure on some of these younger guys is immense, and it's hard to, quite frankly, at times it's hard to evaluate what you really have there because they're wearing that pressure so much that it just kind of overwhelms them at times, to be honest with you.
Ken, what do you like about today's NHL, and what do you think needs improvement?
Well, I'm a little bit new school, old school, and stuff like that. I like the skill and speed, and you like to see that. I still think the game has got to win. You have to have a certain level of grind in you, and I don't see the grind like it used to be. And I think the other thing that scares me a little bit is that I see players going into high traffic areas, and they play junior hockey, not getting hit. They play college hockey, not getting hit, and I fear for some of them because they're not ready for the body contact that's going to come. And I think there's a chance you could get some and you've seen it now, you get a lot of serious injuries. So I worry a little bit about the lack of preparation for when the contact's going to come, because it sure as heck's going to come in big games and in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But the speed throughout the lineup is unbelievable. And, I think the game is now really a 4-line game. Your fourth line has to play double-digit minutes, especially now with the condensed schedule. So I think the teams that are going to come through this and be successful are the deep teams, the teams that got a fourth line that they can throw on the ice and trust.
What are you up to these days, Ken, for people who don't know?
I work with St. Louis, and I work with the American League team in Springfield, and I stay in biweekly contact with the coaches in St. Louis. So for me, I've got a great job because I'm connected, and if I don't like the way the team's playing, I just turn off the TV and go to bed. and I speak an extended period of time once a week with the American League guys, and I go over practice plans and things that I see. So I'm watching a lot of hockey. I'm watching, quite frankly, more hockey now than I ever did. And I watched a lot when I coached, but I'm watching every night. It probably averaged 3 games a night. Wow. But I don't have the stress that the coaches do. And I see a lot of stress with a lot of guys right now. And I'm kind of glad that I'm involved, but I'm not dealing with that daily stressful atmosphere that you have to work under.
Your hometown team, I know you coached them a couple of years ago, but the Oilers not living up to expectations, and I know you're working for another organization, but what goes through your mind when you watch Connor McDavid and company?
I loved my time with those guys. I loved working with that team, that organization, those players, and I feel for them because I know how important hockey is to the people in Edmonton, and I want that team to really be successful, and especially for Connor and Leon and Darnell. We were able to build a really good relationship with between us, and I really want those guys to be successful, and it still bothers me when the team doesn't win or doesn't perform at a high level. Because I know what it's like living in Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton, how important hockey is to everybody, and you want all those teams to be successful.
Ken, one more, if you don't mind. You mentioned something earlier about players not being prepared for hits at the NHL level. We've got a lot of minor hockey parents watching, listening to this show. Hitting right now, Hockey Canada, it gets introduced at the bantam level. Do you think it should be introduced earlier like it was in the past?
Well, I'm not so sure it's hitting, to be honest with you. It's more angling. I think one of the things that we spent days and weeks on were angling and squeezing and all the things that are, body position and everything. I don't think that's being taught at the level that it was, and I think the skills are being taught at a higher level than any of us could ever imagine, and the individual skills, but the team part of the game, like angling and proper stick positioning and proper body positioning, learning how to take a check and learning how to spin off a check, I don't see it being taught like it was 10 years ago, where it was a daily part of your practice. I know when I was coaching junior in Kamloops, now that's a long time ago, but every day we would have 2 or 3 drills that involved checking and angling and things like that. And those details were really, really important. And it prepared the players to protect themselves when they were being hit. And I think that's still got to be a big part of the game. You've got to have that element, that awareness, or else you are going to get hurt. Because the speed is so high right now. A collision, like you saw some of the physical contact in that Minnesota-Winnipeg game last night. There was 4 or 5 times that the defense were not ready for that body contact, and that it looked painful from the television, let alone being there.
Yeah, it looked 1970s-ish. Hey, Hitch, we could go on and on. This has been just wonderful. Thanks so much for doing this, and all the best. Stay stress-free.
All right, all the best, guys. Thanks for having me on.